Gotta put this headset on. Good morning. This is the thing that we have to sanitize really, really good every single time a different teacher uses this thing. All right, so I'm Jody, if we haven't met before. And this morning I'm going to be teaching a Vinyasa flow style class, but it'll have a little bit more of a focus on technique and kind of building up to a peak pose. So we'll kind of prep and prime the body in a way that we can kind of enjoy the bolder poses that require the prepping and the priming of the body. All right, so does the sound good, Kyle? All good, okay. All right, so find your favorite way to sit. So you might be sitting on something like me. You might be sitting directly on the floor or carpet or wherever you are at home. And just close down the eyes and just welcome a few breaths here. Good. I have been thinking lately about how we've had to adapt. There's so much adapting going on right now. But additional to us having to adapt has been, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like right now I'm in a really steep learning curve. And I would assume that that's really being felt universally right now. You might be learning how to work from home. Many of you are. You might be learning how to figure out how to run a family in a completely different way, or even your own routine. Or you might have, it's almost like learning a new language in some ways. It's like you have to retrain the brain to adapt to this new stream that we're all in. And I was thinking just myself, I haven't been sleeping well lately. The last few nights, I was telling Kyle, I think I saw every hour last night, except for maybe 2 a.m., but I saw all the other times. And then I didn't even need my alarm clock to wake up this morning. I was already awake. And I was just thinking about that this morning and wondering if we're using a lot of the mental mind right now. The mental mind is busy. Our cognitive function, our thinking brain is, I would suggest, working overtime here to just learn all the things that we're learning. So the class that I want to teach today is back bends. And I want to teach back bends for a couple of different reasons. I want to teach back bends, one, so that we can get out of the thinking mind and into the body, because they do require quite a bit of our focused attention, which is a good thing, gets us out of the brain and into the body. And also, the weather outside is just like the ongoing winter. And back bends can help with enthusiasm. They're almost like sunshine for the spirit. So I feel like in that regard, it's a good place for us to kind of take ourselves today is into some heart openers and some awakening through the chest. I know a lot of us too, Kyle and myself included, we've been spending a lot of time on computers, on Zoom calls, and maybe our posture has had this forward flexion of the spine. So we'll work to get the chest nice and open, okay? So when you're ready, go ahead and whatever you're sitting on, just put that to the side. And I am going to be using blocks today. If you don't have blocks, just something at home. Even tented fingers is a good choice. So something at the top part of the mat. And then you're just going to come into a wide sit. You're going to take your legs wide. And so when we open up the chest, when we work in back bends or heart openers, the workhorse of these whole poses is the legs. So we're going to start seated just so that we can get into this sensation of the legs working and the spine elongating or getting taller. So root down the heels and then charge the legs a little bit. You'll know what this feels like when you stand on your feet and you lift your kneecaps up into your thighs. That's the action you're looking for here. But it's a rooting down to rising up. So sit bones root down, and then you start to feel this rising or this steaming of the spine. Let's take a couple of breaths here. Strong legs, light spine, tall spine. Good, and there's a couple things that we need to do to prep and prime the body for back bends, and one of them is twists. So we'll start with a really gentle twist. Right hand just simply crosses the midline over to the left side, and then tent the fingers of your left hand behind you so that you can find more height, more length through your spine. Keep your heels drilling down, keep your legs firm. Full breath in. And then use the exhale to sweep through center to switch sides, left hand to right leg. So not too vigorous of a twist here, just waking up the spine, charging the legs. Good. Let's do one more on each side, just to your own breath. Good. And then come back to center. Cross your right leg in front of your left leg. And then same thing here. Left hand's going to cross over to the right knee. Tent your fingers behind you, sit nice and tall, and then turn to your right. Sweep through the center again, turn to your left. And then just on your own, do one more on each side. Good. And then come back to center, and we'll meet up in a downward facing dog with your blocks at the topish edge of your mat. So we'll meet up there. All right, so once you're in a downward facing dog position, I want you to bend your knees a lot. Bend your knees a lot so that you just take the legs right out of the equation here, and you have your mic pack not falling off your back. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. Okay, so bend your knees a lot. Send the tail up towards the ceiling, and then relax the head, relax the thinking mind, relax the brain. This is one of the points of doing inversions, is to let the brain descend and let the brain relax. Keep the knees bent, keep the heels lifted, keep the hands rooted. Good. Now lift the gaze to the space between the palms and simply step your right foot there. And once your right foot's there, this is where you might reach for the blocks. You might just come onto fingertips. We're not here too long though. We're just here to move the hips from front to back a couple times to where eventually we're going to drop the left knee. You're going to drop it down towards the floor. Now take your hands onto your top leg, your front leg here. Push down a little bit so that you get this action and this understanding of the legs rooting down and the upper body, the spine, rising upwards. A couple breaths here. Good. Now keep your right hand on your right knee and simply take the left hand towards the sky. And then reach for space through the spine without creeping the shoulder up by the ear. Keep your eyes focused, breath focused. Good. And then both hands down, frame your foot, step back, downward facing dog. We're going to come to Vinyasa later, but for now, we're just going to set up some techniques in the body to get us nice and warm. Okay, from here, you're going to step your left foot forward. Again, come up onto fingertips, rock the hips front to back. Toes can lift, body weight pours forward and back. And then eventually drop the right knee down. Both hands begin on the top of the thigh, and you're pushing your hands into your leg to find space in the upper body. Ground the legs down, strong feet, firm legs. Okay, keep your left hand on your knee here, and then reach right arm up towards the sky. Even push down in your left hand to find more space in the upper body. Good, and then all the air out, you're going to come back to a downward facing dog. And this time in downward facing dog, rather than bending the knees deeply like we did last time, you're going to try to send the heels down towards the floor. As much as they're able to go there for you, pump the legs. Keep the hands firm, the arms charged, the head heavy, neck loose. Good, and then lift the eyes, step the right foot again forward towards the hands, and then drop your left knee down. So this is where you're going to come to reach for a block, and just set it on the right-hand side of you here, just somewhere in between your front foot and your back knee. Now press into the block, and then swing your left arm all the way up, And then start to arc over to the right side. So the spine enjoys moving in a few different ways before we come into extension of the spine, which is where we're headed. So we want to do a little bit of twisting and side body openers just to prepare the spine. Take another breath in. And then all the air out. You're just going back to a downward facing dog to let that go. Downward facing dog is kind of like that parking lot pose where we just use it to tune back into the breath. Take a little break, relax the head. Yeah, and then we'll switch sides. Left foot steps forward. Drop your left knee. And then block comes about halfway between knee and foot. Sweep your right arm all the way up. Find space, create space here. And then arc over towards the left-hand side. Good. Take one more deep breath in. And then exhale, you're going to drop your hand and send it back to a downward facing dog. Now from downward facing dog, you're going to walk your feet forward towards your hands. So standing forward fold, let the spine drape over the fronts of the legs. Bend your knees deeply, weight your head. Let the gaze fall between the space of the leg bones back behind you. And just take a little bit of movement here, sway side to side. Find a comfortable position for your arms, your head. Now, take your feet hip distance apart if they're not already. Bend through your knees. I'll turn around here. Bend through your knees and then take your hands onto the tops of the thighs. Press down into the thighs with the hands and then start to lift the chest. So there's a cue in yoga that I feel like yoga cues kind of come in and out of trend, of style. And a cue that's been we've been saying for a long, long time is drop the tailbone or tuck the tailbone. And some yoga teachers will say that cue is old. I think in this case, it still is valid. So you want to slightly tuck the tailbone here so that you're not going to completely take the curve out of the low back, but you are trying to descend this part of the pelvis down. Keep the legs strong. And we're going to take the arms to shoulder height here, like you have these sleepwalking arms, these zombie arms. Keep slightly drawing the tailbone towards the front line of the body, towards the pubic bone. You keep that softening in the low back. Now, keep the softening in the low back, but you're going to charge the arms here. So start to reach the arms up towards the ceiling. And notice the amount of strength that you need in your feet and in your legs here to keep the action of the arms, the ascension of the upper body with the rooting of the lower body. 2 more breaths. Bring some heat. Burn away any stagnation if you have it. If you've been on the couch watching a lot of Tiger King. Is that what it's called, Kyle? Tiger King. I haven't watched it yet. I almost started watching it yesterday and then I got distracted with Onward. Okay, forward fold, relax the legs, pedal the heels a little bit. And then come into a halfway lift. Stretch the spine here. Here's another place where you use the hands to root into the shins. Shoulders fall away from the ears, but you're stretching the spine. Good. Bow into the legs. And then let's come all the way up. Reach up. And then set the hands to the center of the chest. All right. So from here, we're just going to come into a simple Tadasana pose. So find your feet hip distance apart. Strong feet, firm legs. Slightly lift the inner arches of your feet so that you feel like the weight is pouring to the outer edges of the feet, and drill down through your big toes. And take your palms to face slightly forward. Keep your eyes open. Keep your attention focused. Good. Keep charging your arm bones down. Keep lifting and expanding your chest without forcing the ribs forward and without going into a back bend. Good. Keep the legs, but now imagine that you're holding 2 platters out to the side. So you externally rotate the arm bones here. Keep drawing the chest open, like you're trying to squeeze the shoulder blades on the back body. Keep your hands active. Keep your spine neutral, neutral spine. Good, and then relax the arms down. Keep your legs just as they are. Carry both of your arms up and over top of your head and circle up your left wrist with your right hand. We're going to do another side bend here. So find some space here, reach up here. Keep weight in your left foot as you start to arc to the right. You can spin your palm to face forward and then take your gaze slightly up and to the left. Good. Come back to center, simply switch sides. You just give a nice little lift, a tug of this arm bone to encourage space through the rib cage and through the waist, and then start to pour yourself over towards the left. Keep weight in both of your feet, strong legs. So the feet and the legs are the firm foundation when we work the spine. Good. And then come back up. Deep forward fold, bend into the legs, drop the head. Rise halfway, stretch your spine. And then forward fold. All right, I'm going to turn myself and we'll all meet up in a downward facing dog. And just feel this downward facing dog now, noticing any comparisons from the very first one. Any energy, any prana has moved around in the body since we began practice this morning. Okay, look forward and step your right foot towards your hands. This time, stay charged in your left leg. So you're going to keep your toes engaged, heel lifted. Lift your kneecap up into your thigh on your left leg. And then come up with hands on hips. Catch your hands on your hips. And then dip into your left knee. Let it just kind of creep towards the floor and then re-straighten the leg. You're going to do this a few more times, okay? So I'm keeping my hands on my hips. If you want an extra challenge this morning, you might take your hands up and over top of your head, high lunge style. You might even take your left fingers and just kind of smooth out the skin on the front of your left hip flexor. Good. The next time you come up with a straight leg, you're going to stay there. So don't look at me in this pose because this is one of my nemesis poses. So I have really tight hip flexors. So someone like me it's probably good to keep just a little bit of a subtle bend into the left knee. But if you don't have that issue, if you've got nice, long, stretchy hip flexors, see if you can straighten your back leg, okay? Reach your hands up and over top of your head. Take an inhale breath, and we're doing this to stretch the spine. And then both hands will meet at the center of the heart. Take a full breath in. And on the exhale breath, nothing changes in the legs as you pour your upper body forward to twist towards the right. So here I can straighten my leg a little bit more because my hip flexors aren't working as hard. But keep your left hip high and keep your right hip pulling back. Firm press of the hands to open the chest. Keep the chest high too. And let the weight of the head be part of this pose. Don't let your head get lazy and sag down. Stay for 3, for 2, and 1. Spin the chest to square off to the front corners of your mat. Hands down, foot back, downward facing dog. Just equalize the pressure in both of your hips and your legs. And then eyes forward, left foot steps. Find your back right leg charged. Fire it up, fire in the heel, firmness in the thigh, and then rise. Get your hands on your hips. So drill down your left big toe. That's a big important part of this lunging pose too. Body weight's going to want to shift side to side with your foot. Keep it drilling down into the big toe. And then a few times start to dip your right knee down towards the floor. Maybe smoothing out the front of the right hip flexor. So when we get to some of the deeper back bends, it's not that It's not that we don't have the strength to do some of these poses. It just might be that some parts of the body, like the shoulders, or in my case, the hip flexors, are a little bit tight, and they just don't allow us for the full range of motion in the pose. Okay, next time, right leg is straight, keep it there. And then reach your hands up. Train yourself to engage your hands and charge your arms, but at the same time, simultaneously drop the shoulders. That can take a long time to feel that. What does it feel like to have charged arms but soft shoulders? Another breath in, spine is long. And then hands come together to the center of the heart. Slight pause here. Another breath in. And then the exhale pours you forward. And then you twist to your left. Root your right elbow onto your leg. Try to pull the belly away from the thigh. Hollow out the belly here. Keep charging the spine long. Crown of the head pulls to whatever side of the room, front of the mat for you. Good. Firm press of the hands keeps turning, revolving the chest. Good. And release. Hands down, foot back. Pedal out the legs. All right, let's stop for a little community water break. Last time I was teaching last Monday, I didn't take a drink the whole time, and I found that hard. Thanks, Kyle. All right, so let's meet in standing. We'll come up to stand. And then simply take your feet just a little bit wider than hip distance apart. So you kind of have this boss stance, like you know what's going on. Take both of your hands, cross one hand in front of the other, and place them on the center of your chest. And then subtly start to pull the hands down. Like you're creating some firmness, a little bit of heaviness in the chest, but at the same time, you're dragging your hands down. And with that firmness and with that dragging down of the hands, start to arc back with the spine. Keep the feet strong, legs firm. Standing back bend. Good, come back to a neutral spine. Keep your legs as they are, but we're going to reposition the hands to these namaste prayer hands. And then same thing here. It's like you're arcing over a big barrel or something. So you lift, keep the length of the spine that we've been doing so far. Spine lifts, legs are strong. Low back relaxes. Good. And then come back to neutral spine. All right, so we're going to set up a downward facing dog, and we're headed to a warrior two, okay? So downward facing dog, I'm going to go this way. Step your right foot forward to your hands. And then spin your back heel so that your hip opens, and then pop up for a warrior two. So firm into the legs, firm feet. And then same thing here. Arms are strong, but shoulders are soft down the back. Couple breaths here, warrior two. Now you might reach for a prop here if you have one. We're headed into triangle pose. I like to have it just on the inside of my feet here. And then pour the hips forward. Keep the arms strong, open the palms. Right hand finds something to root into as left hand reaches for new space. And then find a comfortable gaze here. Either up, straight ahead, or down to the big toe. Now, as we're in this triangle pose, this isn't a back bend pose per se, but see if you can make it just a little bit of a chest opener. A little bit of a turn of the spine here. Good, and slowly start to come out. Downward facing dog pose. So those of you that are craving Vinyasa, we'll do a couple coming up here. All right, left foot steps forward, spin your back heel so your hip opens, and then warrior two pose. Press into your left big toe and the outer arch, or the outer bone of your right foot, lifting the arch. Sink the hips, charge the arms. All right, front knee starts to bend. without hyperextending. So drill down your left big toe so that your knee stays really stable here. Then pour yourself forward. Left hand down, right hand up. Now this left hand is important, so if you're not using a block here, I want you to use the inseam of your leg to help expand the chest. So the top hand and the bottom hand are working hard. Legs support the core here. Core supports the opening of the chest. I would turn my head, but my headset's going to come off. All right, release triangle pose. Now we're going to take a vinyasa, you guys. So frame your front foot, step back to the top of a plank pose, and then you make the call how you lower down. Either use the knees here, but everybody hinge at the elbows, chest slightly comes forward. And then inhale to a cobra or an upward facing dog, and then all the air out to a downward facing dog. We'll do that one more time. Take a full breath in. All the air out. You keep your lungs empty when you walk or step your feet to your hands. And then the halfway lift greets you for that inhale breath. All the air out, pour forward, exhale breath. Inhale, root to rise, strong legs, long spine. And then exhale, hands come back to the heart. Inhale, sweep the arms up, look up. Little standing back bend if you like. And then like you have wings, forward fold. Halfway lift. Set yourself back into a plank pose. And then please come all the way down, whole body touches the floor. Okay. So wiggle yourself so that you're right in the center of the mat here. And then take your forearms onto the floor. Press down into the hands. And also press down into the tops of the feet. So this is Sphinx pose. Slightly pull like you're pulling your hands back towards the hip bones. Keep your feet engaged, keep your legs engaged. And then see if you can slightly firm up the belly here so that you can soften in the low back. Shoulders roll down the back, bones of the arms like they're trying to pull your heart through the gateway of the arms here. And then exhale, just build a little pillow for your head. Take a couple breaths here. You can wiggle out the legs. Good. We're going to do one more. So position the forearms down onto the mat. Firm press of all finger pads down into the floor. Press the toenails down into the floor. And then slightly pull back with your arm bones in your hands. It'll pull your chest forward through the arms. These poses, these prone back bend poses, I always joke that they're nobody's favorite poses. Nobody is going to ask to have their picture taken in these prone back bend poses, but they're good for the spine. They're good for that enthusiasm and just trying to find that happiness in the space of the heart. Good. Soften down. Turn your cheek the other way this time. Relax your legs. Okay, we're going to do a couple of more poses here from the belly, so just prepare yourself for that. We're going to do a Dhanurasana pose in its half version, so it's Ardha version. Take your left hand and take it to fingertips right onto the floor in front of you. And then bend at your right knee. Now, if your hand can hook to your right foot or ankle, go for that. If it doesn't, just stay with your knee bent, something like this, okay? So either find the bind or not. And then you're going to draw your fingertips back of your left hand just a bit to root down to lift up. Legs working hard here, arms working hard here. Stay for 3, for 2, and 1. Come all the way down, take a break, forehead to the bones of the arms. You can windshield wiper your leg bones side to side, decompress the hips. Okay, let's do the second side. So right hand comes out to fingertips, and then bend up at your left knee. Either hook your foot or not, and then slightly draw this hand back, and that'll help you to come up with the spine, the upper body. Kick hard into your hand. Even this right foot, press those toenails down. Gaze forward, heart lifted for 3, for 2, and 1. Take a little pause. Roll out your hips. Put your mic pack on if it fell off. Is it still on, Kyle? All right, come on up. Yeah, you can still hear me? Okay. Let's take a little water break as I figure this thing out. I don't know why it's not staying on today. Oh, hey, Kyle.
I don't do this to all the teachers. That looks good to me.
Okay, good. All right. So perfect time to take a little bit of water. I just want to chat about one thing. We're going to work on upward facing dog. So we just did Sphinx pose. We could have done a little cobra there too. That would have been a good pose to put in there. And then we did that half Dhanurasana pose. I want to workshop upward facing dog pose a little bit. Sometimes I feel bad for upward facing dog because we often come through that pose after we've just been in a chaturanga. And so those are two technically and physically hard poses that are linked together in a vinyasa that we often don't just kind of extract it and pull it apart out of that sequence to kind of give it some reverence or a little bit of a workshop. So we're going to work on an upward facing dog. It is an important pose in the Vinyasa series. If you guys practice Vinyasa yoga a lot, it's an important pose to know kind of technically how to do, or alternatively not to push yourself in, right? Sometimes we can get that jamming in the low back when we're kind of not in our consciously flowing through vinyasas, which I would say we tend to do sometimes, at least I know I do. So we're going to start on all fours. We're going to begin on all fours. And then just slightly take your hands a little bit forward, not too much. And then relax your feet down, tops of the feet release. And then let the hips start to sag towards the floor. Okay? Now, just let the lower half of the body do what it's going to do right now, but look at your arms. Visually look at your arms. So the shoulders, the heads of the shoulders are dropping right over top of the elbows, and the elbows are dropping right over top of the wrists. Push into your hands. Now bring some awareness to your feet. Push your feet down. And remember when we were trying to pull the heart through the gateway of the arm bones? Same thing here. Like the head is going to sit right on the top of this whole pose. Shoulders are relaxed down the back. Arms are charged. Strong hands and strong feet. Now, if there's not too much jamming in your low back, you might find that you can lift and hover your knees up. Upward facing dog. This is a deep back bend. All right, drop the knees, whole body comes to relax onto the floor. You might feel like you want to windshield wiper the knees here, release both hips and low back. Good. We'll do one more, same setup, same exact setup. We'll come onto all fours. Slightly walk your hands forward, just a little tiny amount. And then let the hips kind of hammock towards the floor. Pull the chest through the arms, look down at your arms. Might even be able to walk the hips a little bit more forward. And then gaze forward, lift the knees, Press into the feet, press into the hands. Breaking away any of that stagnation in the chest and the heart. Good. The release of this is going to be a downward facing dog. Tuck the toes, hips to the sky. This is another way to decompress the spine. Elongate the spine, decompress through the weight of the head. Pedal your feet. Okay, so let's add that all together, all of these principles of movement that we've been working on here this morning. Let's add them all into a bit of a flow, into a vinyasa. So from downward facing dog, we'll take a full breath in to let all the air out. Stay empty, hop the feet to the hands. Inhale to the halfway lift pose, stretch the spine long. Exhale, deep bow in towards the legs, drop the head all the way. Inhale, soft knees, rise up. Exhale, hands to the center of the chest. So let's bring some vigor to the practice here. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Take your time. Inhale, long spine. Exhale, hands down, feet back. Chaturanga Dandasana pose. Arm bones back, heart slightly forward. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Exhale, dog pose, hips high. Take a breath in. Be patient, wait for the whole exhale breath out. Look forward, step, fly, feet to hands. Halfway lift. Deep forward fold. Come on up, inhale, full lungs. Maybe a little back bend at the top. And then hands reset. Let's do two more. I'll guide you all the way. Inhale. Exhale. Halfway lift, stretch the spine, crown of the head forward. Hands down, feet back. Alternate which foot steps back first, and then lower from knees or toes. Inhale, full open chest and lungs. And then roll the toes, downward facing dog. Take a breath in. Steady, long, smooth breath out. Look forward, step forward. Lift and lengthen to forward fold. Reach and rise. Hands down. One more. I'm just going to cue breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. To the exhale. You guys stay in a downward facing dog. Okay, so from downward facing dog, I'm going to meet you guys on the knees, okay? With blocks nearby. And so I'm just going to do one more back bend here, and then we'll take some counter poses at the end of class here. So come on to the knees. If you need to double up your mat here or put a towel or a blanket down, you can do that. Take your hands like you're pressing into the backs of jeans and push your hips, the pockets of jeans, push your hips slightly forward. Relax your shoulders. Okay, now keep your feet engaged, keep your legs engaged. Don't let the lower half of the body become dull or lazy here. Keep the legs engaged. And we're simply pushing the hips forward. A couple breaths like this. So everybody's favorite pose, right? Ustrasana, the camel. Why not? We have time. Okay, I like to have my toes tucked in Ustrasana pose. I know some teachers will say you got to keep the feet, shoelace side of the foot on the floor. I personally like my toes tucked. So see what feels best for you. And we're going to take a block or something onto the left side of us. And if you don't have that, it's fine. Reach your right arm up towards the sky. Press into the feet, firm the legs, and then keep reaching, shoulders soft. And then start to arc back. Again, imagine that your hands are still on the back rim of the pelvis here. And you start to lean back in space. Now, if you can lean back and take your hand off of this block, you might catch it onto your heel. But if you're catching it onto your heel, keep pushing the hip points forward. And as much as you're able to do, both shoulders face forward. Now, you could drop your head. I'm going to keep my chin tucked, gaze forward. Stretch the front line of the whole body. Counteract our Netflix lifestyle right now. Good. And then slowly start to come up. And we're going to take a child's pose to decompress the spine here. So knees wide, let the head and the heart settle down towards the floor. Soften the low back on the inhale breath. And release any tension on the exhale breath. We can use the breath as the counter pose here, just as much as this pose itself. Two more breaths. Good. Let's come back up, standing on the knees. Take your block onto the right side if you're using it. Again, we'll just manually adjust the pelvis here. So slide your hand down the back of the pelvis like you're trying to encourage the tailbone to come forward towards the pubic bone. Keep that. And then both hands are going to press the hips forward. Try to soften the shoulders at the same time. Good. And then we'll come up. Right hand can make its way to something beside you. And then carry the left hand up towards the sky. So you're looking for space here. You're looking for length in the spine here before we even start to extend the spine. So reach up. And then make these movements subtle. You just subtly start to fall back. Almost like there's a wind coming towards you. It's just gently blowing you back. If you have space, you can catch your right hand onto your right heel. Keep tucking the chin, squaring the shoulders to the front of the mat. Good. And then same counter pose. We'll come back into a child's pose, wide-legged child's pose. Head down, heart down. If you want to take your hands together to bring the thumbs to the base of the skull, root down through your arm bones, like you're trying to drag your elbows towards your hips. Decompress the thoracic spine mid-back. And then release your hands. Okay, so I'm going to take you guys through a few seated poses here and then a Shavasana at the end. But know that your body is open for other deep back bends, such as Urdhva Dhanurasana, the wheel pose. You might even want to pop up into a peacock pose, into an arm balance where the spine is in a deep back bend. So know that those poses, if this wasn't quite enough for you in this hour of time that we have this morning, know that your body is open and ready for deeper practice if you want to keep going beyond this time, okay? All right, let's take the legs wide again like we did when we first started. Firm down through the legs, rise up through the spine. Tuck your chin and then slightly lean the skull back. All right, take your right foot to the inseam of your left leg. Both sit bones root down, reach your arms up towards the sky. And then turn and pivot towards your extended leg, and then drop your hands on either side. Now use your firm fingertips to kind of turn the torso, like the sternum bone is in line with the big toe, the left big toe. Take a breath in. And on the exhale breath, any amount, start to climb the fingers towards the left foot. Keep firm pressure in your hands here, your fingertips. Now, if this is enough for the back body, if this is enough for the spine, stay right here. But if you want a little bit more, your right hand can cross over your leg and start to turn a little bit more. Keep the chest lifted. Good. And then release. Take your right hand back behind you, this time to a palm. So your flat hand is back behind you. And then reach your left hand right up through the midline. Lift and hike the hips up. Push into your left heel. Your head can fall back if you're not wearing a mic pack, a headset, a helicopter headset. Good. And then drop the hips down. Once you drop the hips back down, bring the soles of the feet together to touch, sole to sole. And then waddle the hips back a little bit so that the diamond shape between the legs is a little bigger. Weave the fingers over top of the toes. And then use the bind of your hands on your toes to encourage the heart forward. Drop your head round your spine. So this is the action of the spine that we typically spend a lot of unconscious time in. Forward flexion of the spine. We spend a lot of time in class doing the opposite, going into extension. But doesn't it feel good to do this consciously? To do this on purpose? Keep using the hands, pull forward any amount, 2 more breaths, heavy head. And the inhale rises us up. And the exhale stabilizes us here. Send your right leg out. And then step your left foot on the inseam of your leg. So push down through your legs, feel that, and then rise up through the upper body, even through the waist. And then arms carry them up. Turn towards your extended leg. And then hands drop on either side of your leg. So they're going to drop wherever they drop for you. Let that be your personal spot. And then use your fingertips to kind of guide the sternum in line with the big toe. If there's space, if it's not too taxing on the back body, you can creep the hands forward. But if you feel like your left sit bone is starting to lift up, then just come back off a little bit. If you feel like your left sit bone is staying down, walk your left hand across your shin to the side. And then release. Come all the way back through center where left hand falls back behind you on a little bit of an angle. And then the right hand sweeps right up and then press root to rise. Lift up. And then sit back down. This time bring both feet flat, knees bent. But waddle the sit bones back a time or two again. And then use the hands on the fronts of the shins just to lift up the chest a little bit. Come forward. So the chest is on the thighs. Now take your hands flat onto the floor and start to move your feet away from you any amount. So your knees can be really, really bent. If you have extra space here, you can catch the peace fingers and wrap them around the big toes. Keep the chest lifted, tuck the chin. Keep the sitting bones rooted down. Keep the shoulders soft. And then release your hands from wherever they are. Come back up. One more Baddha Konasana pose. Soles of the feet come together. Weave the fingers over the toes. Use the hands, pull the chest forward. Drop your head. Round through the spine again. Slightly feel the hips going back and the hands pulling the chest forward at the same time. Round through the spine. Hollow out the belly. Inhale brings us up. And exhale stabilizes us. Okay, we're going to meet on the back. Go ahead, lay down on your back, feet flat, knees bent. Take your feet just a little bit wider than your hips to the outer edges of your mat. Take your hands wide, palms down, and then take turns letting the knees drift from side to side. And next time your knees drift to the right, keep them there, let them fall. And then let your head roll to the left, supine twist. You can lift your right foot and catch it on the outside of your left knee. Soften down your eyes and soften down the breath. And then pick your knees up. Let them fall together to the left side. Head rolls to the right. Picking up your left foot, just supporting that right knee, opening up the front of your thigh here. And release. Just a time or two, let your knees go side to side one last time. And then any final poses that you need before we rest it out for the next few minutes of class here. It's about 10 breaths to find any final movements or anything that you need for Shavasana, like a blanket or to put a hoodie on or a pair of socks or something. But we'll eventually meet in Shavasana pose. Once you're in Shavasana pose, take your legs just a little wider than your hips, feet to the outer edges of the mat. And then arc your back a little bit so that you can draw the scapula, the shoulder blades, onto the mat so that you can open the chest and externally rotate the bones of the arms, palms open. Lift your skull away from the mat, set it back down, chin towards the throat. Take a big full breath in through the nose. And then let go of all the air through your open mouth. And relax your feet. Relax your strong legs. Let the waters of the pelvis be still and quiet. The fire in the belly burns like embers instead of flames. And let the breath flow gently, gently through the chest, the shoulders, the arms, the hands. Relax your tongue and your mouth. Feel your eyeballs fall heavily into their sockets. Your tongue falls into the back part of the mouth. And the brain fall heavily into the back part of the skull. Relax the brain. There's a tendency to want to get up and to press pause or end. See if you can stay with the Shavasana. So body becomes heavy so that the spirit can be light. We'll come back together in a few minutes and we'll end class together.